All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're officially in the afternoon hour now at 12:02 Eastern. I'm Dan Bell with the Hampton Roads Innovation Collaborative. We are the Tech Council for the region, a 501c6 established in the late 90s with the intention of promoting technology and business climate improvements to support the technology sector. We are a all volunteer group, and so we do this because we have the passion and the interest to make sure that we contribute to the economy in Hampton Roads through technology programs, etc. And you are participating in one of those programs. This is our Tech Tuesday. This series is brought to you or sponsored by Cox Communications. I don't know that we have anybody on board from Cox. They usually like to say hello, but they have been a wonderful partner and friend for us and for the region, and so we thank them very much. And this program will last approximately an hour. I think we've got an exciting program. I'm personally very much interested in learning more about TechBridge. I had only heard about this, I don't know, a couple, 3 months back. So I'm all ears on that. And as a reminder, please, everybody, keep your microphones and video cameras off. I'll be watching from afar here through my management panel. So if I see something that's happening, I'll have to turn you off. We have chat available for your questions along the way. Our speakers may choose to integrate those into the conversational flow at the time, if that makes sense. Otherwise, they'll get to it toward the end. If we have time at the end, we'll ask anybody with a question to feel free to turn their microphone and even their video camera back on. So again, with that, I'm ready to turn it over to Tina Bove to introduce the program and the speakers. And I thank them all very much for doing this. This is a very interesting program for our region. And with that, I will turn my video off. And I'll see you at the end of the program. Thank you. Tina, it's all yours.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. And Dan, and innovation to market. So PTRs, and then Nikhil is going to wrap us up with Colburn Run to kind of over to Dr. Julie Stark.
The TechBridge network, and specifically about the Mid-Atlantic Tech. One of the leads for that. And first, I'd like to thank the Mid-Atlantic TechBridge partners, 757. Talk that will present some excellent resources related to collaborating with the government in an effort to bring technologies. You see our 4 names there. It's an interesting concept. There's 4 local commands, all based here in the Hampton Roads area. EXO attached Dahlgren activity. I'm sorry, Dahlgren Dam Neck activity, and then myself. Perfect Navy base. So we are partnered with in downtown Norfolk. So next slide, please, Tina. Across the world. Here in the Hampton Roads area, we really focus on trying to empower we have multiple focus areas where we're trying to enable these slides will be available. There's a lot more on here that I can cover in a quick intro. So the Tina Bove will be sending out the slides to anybody who's registered as a participant. So Tina, you can go to the next slide, please. So this shows you not just the TechBridge network, and these are, you know, across the TechBridge network for the United States too, with the Innovation Collaborative for Hampton Roads are really focused and have an interest in building with the ability to reach out to our partners both nationwide and in other countries. Next slide, please. So I mentioned briefly the innovation pipeline. There's a number of different vehicles. Many of these will be mentioned today in these talks, where we can talk about different avenues and ways that you can receive funding from different organizations to try to get technologies, and some of which, like CIBR and STTR, will be talked about later today. Next. These some of the many capabilities that have been accelerated since this TechBridge network has been established. Have these out to as a glimmer so that people can Google them, look at them, or reach out to us or our PIA partners if you want to. Few years using the TechBridge, some of our command, 4 different commands. Our contact information is here and on the front sheet. There's a website which will be mentioned later. So there's an example of some of the events that are upcoming. All of them are listed on our website. We just recently created a LinkedIn page, which will be updating with different activities, events, and opportunities to partner with the government, or at least become more familiar with partnership opportunities. Next. I think that's the last slide. Yeah, so that's it. Contact information will be distributed. If you want to reach out and find out how to work with NAVALX and the Mid-Atlantic TechBridge, please don't hesitate to reach out to us or some of our PIA partners. Thanks.
Well, great. It's always cool to see more people coming to Hampton Roads and establishing their presence. With a thing called ICAP, the Innovation showing up and being here and participating. We're really hoping we can crank up the activities of the HRIC program. And we'll go to the next slide. Quicker. Very hands-on. This is a mentor-driven program. Based in Hampton Roads, but I've got clients that stretch from Pungo to and we're very hands-on, looking for those Virginia-based technology innovation. A little bit, this isn't an effort to go in. it really is a scientific method applied to building a startup company. And that extends all the way from the idea stage into the scale-up stage. As I mentioned earlier, we it's two guys in a second, but if you're going to take anything away from when you get to the point where you might actually have an exit for your venture. So next, please. I know you guys probably don't care much about who our funding partners are, but I need to point it out because the other big piece of ICAP is that we extend our network around the Commonwealth. With the GAP Fund or some of the resources they have up there, the CCA. These are funded by the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative. We also have colleagues that are funded by Virginia Bio. And unmanned systems, all the way to life sciences and all that sort of squishy stuff that I don't understand, but it's pretty cool what we're doing. So next one. As I noted, we start where you start, and we'll meet you wherever you think about how that might relate to a customer segment. We're here to help. And we're also here as you go. That may make Thanksgiving difficult sometimes, but we're there to help. Then we're here to help you with the CCAP and the at the beginning with what we call the intro course, which is a couple-week discovery. But then, as I mentioned earlier, the instant you join with you at whatever frequency you feel personally come in, is we've mentorships of mentors, and these are the life sciences folks. Myself, I've got a colleague. Technology, so aerospace, unmanned systems, AI, machine learning, cybersecurity, life there for us. That said, if you're not that, we can still help, and we're looking forward to getting. As I noted, we have mentors all over the place. 15 sounds. As I mentioned, expertise in a great many expertise. Even though I'm an aerospace engineer, strategy and so on. So we've got a pretty good network of folks that we can reach out to. One more. As I noted, every team is to fellow entrepreneurs as well. One thing that we often don't mention join that call and listen to the stories, the experiences of other fellow entrepreneurs. Sometimes it's a therapy session, but that's helpful for you entrepreneurs to know how isolating it can be to do that. So, according to the last my finding is that people who go through ICAP the National Science Fund, IRs and FTTRs, and just awards over the years, or in my case, I've been a CIR phase 1, phase 2 reviewer for about 20 years with both. The last thing I want to get to quickly is, as I said earlier, we focus a lot on customer discovery, and the reason for that or spin out of a university or spin. Almost all of our activities are trying to help you be more customer focused than more product focused. I'm just going to list through all this. As you can see on the left side, the 4 pillars. Customers, and then you get around to building your company. And as you can see on the right, it's a highly iterative process. Again, I'm happy to talk, but so I'll save that for some other time. But again, this really is the scientific method applied to startup companies. Next, please. One last thing I'll say, that I think I'm finally finished, is this idea when I was growing up in this business where you'd write the 40-page business plan that nobody would ever read. We've gotten beyond that finally. So if you're not familiar with this idea of a business model canvas, this is a key part of what we mean when we talk about lean startup methodology. Again, I can talk about excruciating detail, I won't here, but there are times when the right answer for a startup company is to not quit their day job, not continue with the business. And so what you see there as well is 750 companies assisted. Many of them isn't going to succeed. And we think that's an important, valuable outcome. That gone away. Good outcomes. So we got some good outcomes. So again, I'd love to talk in more detail anytime. Last chart. Reach out to us. We can be found. As I said, I'm not only here in Hampton Roads, but we extend the entire Commonwealth.
So when you say the Commonwealth, we of interest for the ICAP, is it just the state of Virginia?
Yes, it's just the state of Virginia. As you noted from our funding sources, it's Go Virginia, it's the CCI, which is Virginia Enterprise, Virginia Bio. It doesn't mean we won't talk to people that you establish the presence in Virginia at some point.
Great, thank you. At 400 Granby Street in downtown Norfolk, and we have, as was mentioned earlier by Julie, we have shared space where the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge has an office in our the projects like this one today and others that you'll hear about coming up in the future. And we also are lucky enough to be close to where Marty is, and he's one of our mentors and comes and helps our startups. So I'm going to share a little bit about what 757 CoLab is. We have 3 different resources that we provide into the community. So we have 757 Startup Studios, which is here at Assembly in downtown Norfolk, where if you come in at idea phase, at ideation, first, and then you come to Startup Studios. It's a 6-month. Now, and I know we have be able to help us answer some of those questions. Programming delivered through ID7 Accelerate program. The week training program that happens once a year in the fall. Applications will be coming out around the May-June timeframe to apply for that fall program. And then that's where you can advance your startup. You get much more training, much more mentorship, and then you have an opportunity to apply to 757 Angels. Back the other way. Yes. So 757 Angels. apply for and qualify for each one of these individually. But we have a lot of resources and mentoring and programming available to help those of you who are in the community who are trying to build startups. The whole intention of what we're trying to mention here is that you don't have to do it alone. There are all kinds of free services available to help you get there. So we'll go to next slide. And if you are in the community, here are different ways that you can engage. You can apply to be a mentor. If you would, if you're not working on a startup, but you want to be engaged in the ecosystem, then you can send a note to me and tell me that you would like to be a mentor, and we'll use you wherever we can. If you are interested in holding some grant funds and you would like to provide some grants or sponsorship to any of our programs, we're happy to talk to you. And if you are interested in investing, you could become an angel investor through the 757 Angels Group. You can also reach out to us if you are a corporation or a specific industry and you would like custom programming specific to your industry or to your corporation. We can build a partnership and do custom programming for you. So you can reach out to me at Eileen at 757 Collabs. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. I'm going to look at chat. I think we had a couple questions come in. Hunter put in his contact information. So if you're interested about 757 Startup Studios, he just put his email in the chat for you and he put a link to the application. Thank you.
Well, hello again, everyone. So Tina Bovey here. I'm with a company called C5BDI. We are a woman-owned small business local here in Virginia Beach. And we kind of specialize in taking small business who have emerging technology and want to get that into the government space. And a lot of how we're doing this is through small business innovation research. You'll hear me call SBIR or SBIR, and small business technology transfer, STTR or STTR. So a little about the history of SBIR. So it was actually established back in 1982. And really it was developed to strengthen that role of small business in the government space. And you can see here, unfortunately, the most recent numbers are from FY19, and they spent over $54.3 billion towards SBIRs. And so the ultimate goal of SBIR and STTRs are to get technology into that government space and then commercialize it. And they're really about building those relationships, and especially when it comes to STTRs, fostering that relationship between industry and a university. And so here you can see, what does a SBIR or STTR company look like? They must be a for-profit, US owned and operated, and be under 500 people. All the work will have to be done here in the US. And the real focus of SBIR is that research and development. We're not purchasing equipment. And then, you can see the different phases here. So phase one is really about that conceptual development. So at the end of a phase one, you'll see the dollar amount is a little bit less. You're going to owe a final report to your technical point of contact. And then if selected, you'll transition to phase two, where you see that dollar amount go up significantly, because at the end of a phase two, you're going to owe a prototype system. And then phase three can be a bit of a misnomer because you're no longer getting SBIR funds. Like, you actually have to go to a program and they're going to apply their program dollars for you to stand up a phase three. And so on the left here, you can see the 2019 SBIR budgets. Obviously DoD having the greatest budget, but you can kind of see how all the other federal agencies broke out there. And then a key note is the differences between SBIR and STTR. So it really comes down to that partnership, and having a university or research institution has to be a part of an STTR. SBIR, you can absolutely have a subcontractor. It could be another university, but for an STTR, that is a requirement. And then you can see the work share requirements there for STTR, 40% done by the small business, 30% has to be done by the research institution, where it's a slightly different work requirement for any partnerships you establish for SBIRs. And then the principal investigator requirements, the PI could be with the research institution or the small business for an STTR. So here you can see all the 11 participating federal agencies. And so for example, Department of Defense, you're going to have the Navy, you're going to have Air Force, you're going to have MDA. So within these 11 federal agencies, it also breaks down into smaller organizations. And I want to pull up a quick slide on phase 3. I had mentioned it when I was showing the 3 phases. And the purpose of a phase 3 is to derive from, extend, or logically conclude the efforts that you had in a phase 1 or a phase 2. And it is this sole source capability that you have because you already competed at the phase 1 or the phase 2 level. A key piece here is that the prime does not have to do 51% of the work. So any work brought to that subcontractor could do the majority of the work. And then, right, it can be for products, production, services, or true R&D, and you can do everything from unclassed to top secret on these phase 3s. And so on the left-hand side, the resources piece, 2 important links that if you want to learn more about SBIRs, you can go right to sbir.gov. But for the actual topics, if you go to that link right there, the DoD does 3 cycles a year, and we're actually getting ready to come up on the 22.2 cycle. So on April 20th, they will pre-release all the topics for the DoD. So on April 20th, if you go to that link, you can go in and see everything that the federal agencies that are participating for that cycle, all the topics that are listed. And these are, topics that you could apply to. And you see myself listed there, Mark Lange, I'm not sure if he was on here, but please reach out if you have any questions, especially if you're local. I'm in here at the assembly with the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge team and the 757 team at least once a week. So I'd love to connect. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Nikhil in Colburn Run, and he's going to share his experience, a little bit about Colburn Run, his experience with ICAP and then SBIR, SCTRs, and kind of tie all this together as a success story. And then, okay, then, well, first, Nikhil, I'm going to take one question. So
So when you're focusing and wanting to apply to an SBIRS or SBIR or SITR,
Yep.
Does it have to be in alignment with the posts that they're putting out on the 20th of the specific topics?
So for 99% of the time, you will be actually responding to a specific topic. Now, I will say that AFWorks has come out with open calls. So an open call phase 1 and or an open call phase 2. And with that, you can bring your ideas to the Air Force as long as you can tie it to a need that you have found within the Air Force. So that is right now the only opportunity where you can take your ideas to them. The majority of the time, like I mentioned, you are going to see specific topics that the federal agencies are looking for that you have to then say, this is how I would plan to solve it, and submit your topic that way, or submit your solution to that.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, Nikhil, we are going to turn it over to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tina, for the invitation, and to everybody here for the engagement. It's exciting to learn about the latest in ICAP 757 and C5DDI. And, Colburn Run really was, I learned a lot from Bob Smith, Josh Green, and Dave Perkins, who I believe is now down in the Hampton Roads area. Some of you may know him. Really, Colburn Run started out as just an idea. I'd always wanted to start a company, which may be one of the worst reasons to start a company. And really the catalyst for me, just to give some quick background on myself, I was an engineer, worked at several large companies starting out at Wall Street in 2006. Went to business school full time. Then upon graduation, joined Procter & Gamble, helped sell mops for a little while, the Swiffer and Mr. Clean brand. So worked at several large companies and always kind of jealous of people that did startups and were successful. And then, from Procter & Gamble, I went to work for a venture capital company to learn a little bit more. But because of my risk profile at the time, I ended up working at a tiny business that was still 80 to 100 million in revenue, right? So now I understand that that's still a relatively large business. So honestly, I was at that company here in Northern Virginia called Capital Systems, kind of had the itch to start something. And my boss from P&G called me and said, hey, Nikhil, remember that spreadsheet you made for our team, which was 3 people when I quit in 2014. So he called me in 2017, 18 and said, can you fix this for me? And I said, absolutely not. I don't work for you anymore. He goes, what if I paid you? I said, okay, let's go for it. And so, I called a buddy of mine who was also at a similar point in his career where we could take a little bit of risk. I, ignored the advice that I wish I had taken from ICAP, which was I immediately quit my day job, which I should not have done. And we just founded a company in 2018. And we had one customer and we had some ideas, playing around with blockchain technology and AI, because we figured that the bleeding edge is where we needed to be as a startup, which was also wrong. And it came to the point where my partner at the time and I realized we didn't know what we were doing. And I happened to get an email about something called the Innovation Commercialization Assistance Program, and it was free. So we decided to try it, and it turned out to change my life. So ICAP was a phenomenal thing that we found out about by chance. I also was introduced to CIT through the program and the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. And my biggest takeaway from ICAP was really that, just because you have experience in large business doesn't mean you have any idea what you're doing in small business. And even then, that's completely different from a new venture. So I learned a tremendous amount in that quick abbreviated ICAP course, starting with a lot of the materials that Bob Smith at the time taught from Steve Blank. So I don't know if that's still part of the curriculum, but I found that incredibly valuable just to understand what are the activities of a new venture. How do you go about listening to the market rather than focusing on solutions first, like AI and blockchain. So it was a very humbling experience, but incredibly useful to me early in our journey to kind of understand what I was getting into, even though I was kind of already in it. And so ICAP was instrumental in making those initial connections to CIT. And we had some ideas, and they CIT gave us an SBIR Business Award based on some presentations that we made at the time for concepts. And so it worked out really well. We got $5,000, which was a huge deal at the time for us, to go after something called SBIR, which Tina just covered. And so we applied for a blockchain SBIR, defense microelectronics activity. I didn't know anything about blockchain or microelectronics, which was super unhelpful. I did know about blockchain because I studied it, but we built a couple prototypes using open protocols, just kind of playing around, but I wouldn't call myself an expert by any means. So what I did for that particular SBI topic was, with the advice of ICAP and a few others, I went down the list of cited professors, like Professor Cameron Patterson from Virginia Tech, and Paul from Microsemi, which is now Microchip Corporation. I just called those people that were cited in the SBIR topic, and they had no idea that they were cited, and decided to team with us for a reasonable amount. Built kind of a super team of sorts, and we won the very first proposal that we submitted for SBIR. So we said, hey, this is super easy. My partner and I were high-fiving, extremely excited, and just kept going. We probably lost the next 7 SBIRs that we applied to, because it is very competitive and difficult to do. But over the course of that, every time we tried to get better. Learning about, we built a board of advisors of people who had done SBIRs before, established a relationship with companies like C5BDI, kind of leveraged the resources from ICAP and CIT. And so that was in end of 2018, we were selected for our first SBIR, which actually ended up being awarded in 19. And then since then, because of the resources made available to us, attending those CIT SBIR meetings, which is where I met C5BDI and all the things that Virginia makes available to us, we've now had 18 SBIR selections since 2019, with 16 of those being funded. So happy to answer questions about selected, not funded, if that's what people want to know about. But the other 16 have been extremely foundational for Golden Run. It grew a lot faster than our commercial business, so we leaned into becoming a defense contractor. Got some more co-founders who are Army and Navy intelligence officers to help us kind of build our use cases out. The other thing we did was, through the SBIR program, we were able to establish connections with large companies that don't have access to the SBIR program. So we kind of built technology teams there, pivoted a few times, and now, we completed our first phase 3 last month. We're in talks for signing 2 more, one with the Air Force and one with the Navy. And it's just been an incredible ride, right? So I kind of went quickly over the last 4 years in about 5 minutes there. So happy to answer any questions anybody has them, but I just want to make sure that I take the time to really appreciate, oh, sorry, turn my video on. Appreciate what ICAP and, particularly the SBDC has done for us. We were featured as the Loudoun County SBDC. We eat in office space. We worked at the Mason Enterprise Center in Leesburg. It's just amazing what's possible given all these resources. So, always happy to help whenever I can for ICAP and answer any questions for people on the phone. In terms of Hampton Roads specifically, one thing is that one of our phase 3s is pretty extensive with Marmot and CNRMC down there. So I was just there with Tina, Mark, and their team last week, kind of building on all the stuff that we've done in the last few years. So very exciting and happy to be here. So Eileen, I'll turn it back to you. Any questions?
Yeah, so one question would be, you said that you had 19 applications and 16 accepted. Were all of those
yeah.
under?
No. We had 18 selected. I've written probably 60 applications. I don't know, we win about a third of what we write. No, we win 40% of what, yeah. I've written 50 or 60 of them, and we won about 40%.
Wow. And how extensive is that application process? How many hours do you put in an application?
Early on, it was the first application I did for DMEA, I think took 4 weeks, pretty much full time, figuring out what to do and also delivering on a commercial contract. It wasn't easy.
And how long did it take you to complete your last application?
I did 15 of them in 3 weeks. We have 15 pending right now for the 22.1 round. But that's part of the thing, right? So the thing that CIT helped for was really like, by the time we won our first one, really we're kind of at this point where like, hey, we invested so much in getting this dam done, cage, UEI, all these things, and that was a lot of the first 4 weeks, right? Was just getting all those pieces lined up so that we could apply in the first place. And it still took a lot of time to line up partners and subcontracts and teaming agreements and learning how to properly position yourself, right? So all those 6 or 7 that I lost before we won our second SBIR also took many, many weeks. But it was useful for a couple of reasons. Like we could leverage some of the stuff that we built before. So we have probably 1,000 pages of proposal library now. And just thinking back on it, some of the stuff we did, it was crazy. AppWorks used to have a video requirement, which was absurd. So I learned how to make videos using something called Powtoon, Powtoon. If you go to colemanrun.net and look at AI solutions, you can see some of the videos that we were able to kind of hack together for that requirement. But yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm not going to lie, it's a lot of work, to apply. But once you get the hang of it, I think it could be very rewarding. It's also gotten us into some other things. Like we're part of a large company OTA team, and we used the SBIR past performance to kind of win that. Yes, hopefully that answers your question.
Yes. So were all of these applications under one business name? All came from Calvin Run, or were they from others?
We were the prime of every. We've never been a sub on an SBIR. We submitted some where we were, but those did not win. In terms of the ones where we're prime, yes, they're all submitted under our case code and DUNS number, although now it's no longer done.
We encourage everyone in the audience to, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat box and we'll address them. And it doesn't have to be just to Nikhil, it can be to any of the speakers that we've had today. If you're curious or have questions about ICAP or TechBridge or 757, go ahead and put your questions in there, or the Hampton Roads Innovation Council as well.
So just your earlier question, Eileen, on the 18 awards that we won, that were selected for, 9 were phase 1, 8 of those made it to phase 2 selection, although only 6 of those were funded. So that's 17. And then the other one was phase 3 that we just completed.
And how many phase 3s have you completed?
Just the one so far. And we're looking to stand up a couple more with the Air Force and Navy. And the one that was weird. So the one that we completed was a task order from the Small Business Administration itself. They liked what we did with the Navy. Met this guy in a webinar last summer. He called me while I was on the beach in August, taking our first vacation in 2 years, and said, "Hey, can you help me build this application for some open data analytics?" I saw your work in the Navy and it could be interesting. Phase 3, direct task order, no IDIQ, very simple kind of $400,000-ish contract signed. From that phone call, it took 5 weeks to get it on paper, right? So the phase 3 authority does work if the contracting shop knows how to use it.
So what are you actually delivering? What are the products that you have been building and delivering?
Yeah, so what we've kind of pivoted into is we actually have 2 products that we're delivering now. One is called Informa AI, which is actually more of a solution platform where we work with companies like Amazon, Databricks, MicroStrategy, kind of leverage best-in-class technology. Because, you know, when I was studying other companies in the Valley of Death, one of the biggest issues is, you know, there's 3 things that happen. Everybody focuses on capabilities, but that's 1/3 of the pie. I think adoption is the other 2/3 of the pie, and that can be broken down into 2 components. One is deployability, and the other one is security and compliance, right? And so if we were going to go down the path our own of getting ATO, RMS, all these other DMNC, whatever, FedRAMP, it would cost millions of dollars and take ages, right? Which is exactly where you get to at the end of a phase 2 if you don't leverage partners. And so, you know, Informa AI is our solution kind of umbrella platform. And then Veritech AI is a spin out that we're working on right now. If you go to Veritech, Veritech.ai, it kind of came out of our blockchain work, where the blockchain was focused on suppliers. We found that the end users actually had a need, right? So if a vulnerability came out on a specific memory chip, do you know if that memory chip exists in your laptop or your operational technology stack? The answer is that's very difficult, but that's a problem that Veritech solved that we kind of discovered in the course of our SBIR adventures here. So I hope it answers your question.
It's all software. It's software as service.
Not necessarily as a service, but yeah, so all software.
All software. And it's software that is proprietary just specifically for different government agencies to use, or you have any of it commercialized for anyone?
So we took it from the reverse. We started with things that are already commercially viable. So MicroStrategy is going to run for 30 years, but you can't just install MicroStrategy and start using it to maintain boats or ships, right? So in order for that to be adapted to that use case, we kind of had to do the last 20% of user experience, design, development, and some of the IP that's required to really tailor that to the end user use case. So we focus very much on that last mile of configuration, just because, you know, we had to focus somewhere, which is something I learned from ICAP, right? Pick your, when you aim small, miss small, win big.
So in ICAP, they say focus on the customer, and then build the company. But you're saying what you've been able to do is leverage some off the shelf existing products and then customize it for that last mile for the specific government agencies of what they need. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's probably a little taboo and against the ICAP ethos, but we're a bit of
but it's a great concept though. It's, you know what, it's nothing wrong with it. It's a great idea. And I think that our audience, that's interesting for the audience. And so that you don't have to build from scratch. If you see a need on the list that's coming out on April 20th and you see a need and you think about what already exists in the market that needs to be modified to meet that need, then you could submit an application, if I'm hearing you correctly. Yeah.
You can submit an application, doesn't mean you'll win, right? In fact, whatever, 60% of the time we lose. but still pretty good. You know, I'll tell you, one of the things that really helped me early on was that whole business model canvas and the mission model canvas. We actually used that in our proposals. And the other thing that really helped from ICAP was just using it as a reference point, saying that we have an approach. You know, we have this letter of support from the state of Virginia or Commonwealth of Virginia. I think all those little things kind of add up and give you those like qualifications, you know. So that was very, very helpful. Yeah, hope does that answer the question in terms of kind of what we do. I think the other thing, sorry, we're trying to remember stuff from 2018. We're starting to, you know, I thought about this since Tina invited me a couple weeks ago. One of the concepts that I really, really liked a lot that's applicable is SBIR is paid research. You know, and me coming from the commercial world, I've heard of such things, but mostly it was internal. Like you do research for one company and then they own the IP. the SBIR is really special because they will pay you to do customer discovery and research, right? So a lot of times who we start out with in the SBIR is not who we end up with. So I mentioned that effort at Marmot and CNRMC down in Norfolk. That actually started out with O&R phase focused on data science on sensor analysis. Now, because we've been able to kind of work with the partner, our sponsor from O&R has flown with us all over the country to build kind of project management decision aids, because we realized that without that underlying data, none of this other stuff would work. And so, you know, I think the ITAP ethos of customer discovery and kind of listening to where the needs are, what was it? If the market screams, you should listen or something. I don't remember. It was Bob's thing, but incredibly helpful as opposed to big company approach saying, here's what we sell, buy it.
Right, right. So I'm going to turn my questions over to Tina and ask about you're mentioning on April 20th that a list would come out, but you also mentioned that there's like over a dozen entities that are supporting these activities. So are all of those entities all providing their needs on April 20th in that one spot, or do you have to go to different places to get it all?
So the majority, there'll be a DoD BAA that will come out with. Not every agency participates during those 3 cycles. Some are off cycle. DHS typically does their own thing. Army has been off cycle for the last couple of years for some unknown reason. So that won't be the only place, but you can go there to find them. But come April 20th, you're not going to see all 11 federal agencies have topics that are listed right there. You're going to see there is like a 3 cycles that I would say the majority participate in. So you're going to see a lot of them April 20th. But then you can always check back and see, you know, what the Army's thrown out. DHS will put theirs out. Department of Energy will put theirs out. But you will see a good selection of topics come April 20th. Yep.
Okay, great. And at the April 20th website, does it actually provide resources where to go find the other ones, or?
If it's open, they will be on there, but there are, like, you know, if you go Department of Energy or DHS, you can easily go to those websites and see kind of what their schedule is too. You'll see the schedule for the 3 bigger cycles on that one. So, but yeah, the majority will be through that website there that you can find.
Great, thank you. And Julie, we have a request here in the comments from John. He would like to connect with Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge. Could you put your contact information in the comment for us?
It's actually on the title slide, and that's the best way to contact the Tech Bridge, because it reaches out to not just all of our members, but some of the 4 key people from each command, but our partners can get to it as well. So that email address is best on the title slide.
Tina will put that slide up. So what we will do is we'll take all of these slides and we'll give them to Dan, and he will deliver the slides to the participants through the emails we received in the registration process. But Tina can switch over to that slide and show you the Tech Bridge. Yeah, go back to the Tech Bridge one, and then that will show the Tech Bridge contact information. And do we have any other questions from the audience?
And if the contact doesn't come up, you can also just Google NavalX O&R Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge, and it comes right up.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from anyone? And check the chats as well. Marty's been dropping in some tips there. If you haven't been looking at chat, give it a glance. Okay, we have one last slide. We'll go ahead and share with you, and I'll turn it over to Tina.
Was there, hopefully it comes back. Connecting. But hopefully you guys saw that at one point. So we are actually holding an SBIR STTR workshop here at the Assembly on April 27th. And I put the registration link over on the right-hand side. Again, you will have access to these slides I know Dan sends them out pretty quickly. So you can go ahead there and register. You can come here and meet us locally. So I forget who it was that asked, but that's a great opportunity to chat with folks at the Tech Bridge because they will all be here. But you're going to hear from both government folks in the Navy, Army, and Air Force are going to be here to talk to us in the morning. We're going to hear from AWF at lunchtime. We're going to hear some more success stories similar to Nikhil and Colvin Run and you know, their challenges and successes across SBIR, STTR. We're going to, ODU is going to be here as well to talk more specifically about STTRs and then a little bit more about commercialization and how we can go from a phase 1, phase 2 to that phase 3, which is the ultimate goal. So if any of that interests you, again, you can come here locally. We'll have an in-person version, but you can also join us virtually. So any questions, don't hesitate to ask, but again, we ask that you register using that link. And that is all we have, Dan. So I guess we'll turn it back over to you. I know we have about 7 minutes. So if you or anyone else had any questions, we'd be happy to answer them until the top of the hour.
Well, thanks. I think it was a great program, very informative. We won't wait 7 minutes for questions. If people are going to ask something, now is the time to do it. But I think it's, yeah, I think it was a great information set that we've got here. So very, very informative. As Tina said, last call for questions.
I have a question. This is John Lieberman. We've had some contact with the Palmetto Tech Bridge and with more recently with the South Maryland Tech Bridge. I was at Sea Air Space and met Brad Goodrich, and he had some good advice for us. Question is that's a little fuzzy and comes through a little fuzzy is it appears that the tech bridges have a pretty strong regional focus, even almost, you might argue, sub-regional focus. You know, we're interested in things that are in the vicinity of Charleston, South Carolina. We're interested in things that are in the vicinity of Pax River, Maryland, et cetera. And of course, that may extend out to, let's say, all of South Carolina, for example, in the case of the Palmetto Tech Bridge, let's say, for example. But the nature of technology is that it comes from, I understand the desire for regional development and for people to be co-located geographically. I get all that. I think it's admirable. But on the other hand, technology comes from all over. And not unlike Colvin Run, my company brings technologies from lots of places around the United States. And I'm having, frankly, a little trouble resolving whether the geographical dispersion of our technology base, in my case, is compatible with the fairly tight and prescribed geographic focus of each of the tech bridges. Over.
Sure. This is Julie from the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge. I can certainly address that. So I think that maybe that's been miscommunicated to you. So the idea of having the Tech Bridge network is, in fact, we do all work as a network. So we want to work together to identify the best technology resources throughout the world, not even just the United States, to bring those to wherever they're needed within the Naval Research Enterprise, frankly, within the entire DoD. The idea of the regional focus is to have the reach back so that we as a region know what small companies, big companies, all organizations that have technology solutions that they can provide to the warfighter. So it's more the regional focus is so that we know what's out there regionally and that we can connect our regional ecosystem throughout not just our region, which is great to help build the economic stimulation within the Hampton Roads region in our case, for example, but rather to have the regional technologies have that reach back throughout the world. So if, say, I'm talking with one of my colleagues from the Palmetto Tech Bridge that you mentioned, or one on the East Coast or West Coast, or the one that contacted me in the middle of the night from London that was asking questions, it was, hey, I heard about this company that does XYZ, and they said something about being in Hampton Roads, and do you know what they do and who they're talking about? And I made that connection with a Hampton Roads-based company to a company in, actually, I don't think the company was in England. I think it was a German company that contacted the London Tech Bridge looking for a solution, and I made the connection between the two. Does that address your question or concern?
It helps. I think it's, you know, scratches the itch a bit. We were advised to work through one tech bridge, not exclusively, but primarily. It happened to have been, in our case, the Southern Maryland Tech Bridge, because we do some work at NavAir.
So Rick Tarr, sure.
Rick Tarr, yeah, we met Rick at
Yeah.
the Sierra Space Conference last week for the first time, and then it was indicated to us, which I think is pretty compatible with what you just said, that hey, you know, work kind of locally or regionally, as it were, just partly because they're local and partly because it gives you sort of a focus channel, but that anything that they find of interest that would be of interest to others, as I think you just said, would be you know, would be shared with others, which, you know, if you're a true knowledge sharing organization, hats off to you. Congratulations. There aren't enough of them around.
Sure. I mean, we are, but we're also all government and all have many jobs and many hats that we wear. So it would certainly behoove you, if it's appropriate to do so, to reach out to other tech bridges. And no tech bridge is going to discourage you from engaging or talking with another tech bridge.
Okay.
If you tell Rick something and say, hey, we want to know the people in Hampton Roads, maybe he's going to reach out directly to us. At some point, but if you want to reach out to any of the tech, so you can do it two ways. You can reach out to any of the tech bridges and say, here's my technology. Now remember, we're not, we don't have our own book of business. We don't have our own line of funding like O&O or then other money pushers. What we do is sort of to make those connections between technologies that have something that can address a technology gap anywhere within mostly the Navy and Marine Corps, because that's, you know, we're all naval commands, but we all also are S&T leads, science and technology leads for our respective commands. And many of us have had jobs and details to other commands and have reached back to other DoD organizations. And we work with some of the folks from other DoD organizations that are doing the similar thing. So if you were, so please don't interpret anything, Rick, or any of my other Tech Bridge or Naval X colleagues. None of us are ever going to discourage any company from working with any Tech Bridge, because the more the merrier in terms of, you know, making the best technology solutions that can help the DoD fight the better, faster fight.
So thank you very much. So if I could just, and I feel badly monopolizing this part of the discussion, but just one quick follow-up. So if we have some technologies that we'd like to bring to your attention, but frankly, they're not particularly focused in or from Virginia, and certainly not from the Hampton Roads area, is that still a conversation worth having, or are you less interested in it because of the geographical dispersion of it and lack of focus in this area?
So the S&T gaps for all the DoD services are they're dumbed down a little bit, but they're widely available. If you think your company or organization has any technology solution that addresses any gap across DoD that's not currently being filled by some company or solution provider, then yes, you should reach out. And what we do as a network is we will submit that information. Now, that's no promise something will get funded or looked at by the right people, but we as a network are a pretty good network of, you know, about 50 people that are like the S&T leads throughout the Navy. So it's a pretty tight network, and we it's so far been pretty good at being able to do just what you're saying, to be able to make the connection between a technology and who might need that technology.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Last call for questions. It's straight up at the top of the hour. So last call, one more. Anybody? All right. I think we're good to go. So again, thank you to everyone. Thanks to our speakers, great program information. Thank you to all of our participants who joined the call. I will be getting the URL for the video as well as the slides out to you in fairly short order. Might be today, no later than tomorrow. And looking forward to May. Our next program will be with the Entrepreneurs Organization, which should be a very informative and enjoyable session as well. So again, Dan Bell from the Hampton Roads Innovation Collaborative saying thank you to everybody and signing off. Have a good day.